Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're going to put on our literary critic hats and step into a really dark, incredibly atmospheric mythic fable. We're unpacking the terrifying philosophy of Baron von Nichts. If you've ever sat around and wondered what the absolute literal endpoint of pure nihilism actually looks like, well, this story maps it out perfectly. So let's dive right in and decode the irony of the void.
I deny the sunrise. I deny the spark. Now, talk about a chilling way to introduce yourself, right? That is the Baron's opening decree. And you have to understand, this isn't just a guy venting his anger. No, this is the pure, unfiltered philosophy of total negation. He doesn't just want to break physical things. He literally demands the complete erasure of the very concepts of beginning, of light, of creation itself.
To really get the Baron, we have to grasp his power, which is known as the first sloughing. This is the literal unmaking of the grammar of being. When he uses this, the earth doesn't explode. It just wrinkles and peels away like burnt paper. It's not this loud, violent Hollywood explosion. It's a quiet, profoundly terrifying undoing. It's a shedding of what he genuinely considers to be nature's illusions.
Part 1, the Creed of Unmaking and the Arithmetic of the Great Zero.
Okay, picture this with me. You're standing on the summit of the jagged Brocken Mountain. The witching hour in Weimar doesn't just strike 3, it bleeds it. The air around you is thick with the sharp scent of vinegar and old parchment. And right above you, a motionless celestial body, the great star of negation, casts these bizarre black shadows upward with a cold anti-light. This is the incredibly stark stage where the Baron summons his ultimate destructive force, the Great Zero.
So, standing on that summit, the Baron lays out his core motivation. To create is to commit a crime against the peace of the void. He literally views human consciousness as a delirium. To him, existence itself is a fever, and he is the cure. To the Baron, the empty, silent void isn't a tragedy at all. It's a state of perfect, undisturbed peace. And as you can probably guess, this worldview clashes violently with the rest of humanity. Think about a master builder, someone incredibly proud of his life's work, like a massive marble monument. For the builder, that stone proves he existed. It gives weight to his years on Earth. But the Baron? He looks at that and sees cages of stone. Just meaningless metrics built by humans who are terrified of the abyss. For him, a legacy is nothing but a ghost.
Now, the Baron cures this builder, but not by smashing his marble with a hammer. Instead, he simply erases its form. It just unravels into gray powder. He offers up this terrifying ultimate boon. Subtract everything from nothing, and you are finally free. If you destroy meaning entirely, he argues, you liberate humanity from the crushing burden of existence.
Moving into our next section, the contagion of silence, a world economical with words.
Because the thing is, the absence of meaning doesn't just destroy statues, it starts to rot society from the inside out. Imagine a priest giving a sermon only to find his congregation staring back with the polite bewilderment of people listening to a completely foreign language. Or a magistrate reading a strict law aloud and watching the crowd's faces shift into this gentle, philosophical uncertainty. Even the children simply stopped learning new words. Why? Because the old words no longer seem to refer to anything solid enough to even be worth naming.
Within a single week, the village had grown quiet. Now, not totally silent, but economical. People still spoke, but they simply said less. They meant way more by it, they trusted it less, and they just could not stop obsessing over what they actually meant by less and more. The Baron's nihilism had essentially paralyzed their entire reality. Which brings us to the third act, the mountain surrender and the parable of the return to the Brocken. So earlier, we saw the Baron engaging in active destruction, right? He's aggressively fighting illusions, erasing form. But when he returns to the Brocken to perform a second creed, he faces a completely different kind of horror, total negation. The mountain is already ash. It cooperates completely. It offers absolutely nothing back. And this is the central, delicious irony. The Baron is defeated not by resistance, but by absolute, terrifying compliance. There is literally nothing left to negate.
This entire parable unfolds in 3 masterfully constructed movements that expose the massive structural flaw in the Baron's worldview. We have the mountain's agreement, the spirit's deviation, and finally, the painting on the summit. Let's break these down.
Movement 1, the mountain's agreement. The void simply lies down and waits. It offers the Baron the literal floor of his own argument to stand on. And honestly, this is the most unsettling form of defeat possible. If your entire being is defined purely by opposition, you need something to push back against. When the universe completely surrenders to your nihilism and just agrees with you, your whole purpose evaporates.
Next up, a crack in the void, something older than philosophy.
To understand the second movement, we need to talk about the Baron's companion, the Mercurial Spirit. This is a terrifying entity born of Quicksilver. He's the grand architect of decay, completely decked out in ash-gray priest robes and a pitch-black leather plague doctor's mask. He is the ultimate unfeeling agent of unmaking.
Which makes movement 2, the spirit's deviation, so shocking. This absolute agent of decay takes one single, deliberate step sideways off the path and onto the dead ash. Why? It's as if he's suddenly remembering what moss felt like. Just think about that. A simple, quiet memory of nature creates a massive crack in the Baron's absolute zero. It proves that something ancient, organic, and stubborn will always outlast pure, rigid philosophy.
And then we get movement 3, the quiet, final blow. Someone, we don't know who, left a small oil study of moss sitting right on the crown of the Brocken before dawn. It's this incredibly fragile act of pure creation, just sitting there defiantly atop the ashes of absolute unmaking.
Our final section, the terrifying edge, the irony of absolute compliance. On the back of that small painting of moss, there were just 4 words written. It was here first. Let the heavy, undeniable truth of that just hang in the air for a second. Nature, creation, existence. It was here first. Negation is never the main event. It's just a secondary reaction. The Great Zero can erase things, sure, but it can never, ever be original.
Just trace the quiet survival of this tiny creation. At dawn, the study is left on the ash. By day, a shepherd comes along and finds it. Later on, he sells it to a woman down in Weimar who happens to be, at the exact time of purchase, mixing green paint. The Baron unleashed a wave of cosmic emptiness, but this tiny act of creation just bypassed him entirely, passing from hand to hand to inspire even more life.
Which brings us to this devastating turn of phrase. The Baron had reached the edge. He did not know the word for what lay beyond it. The aphorism turns entirely on him now. The mountain is fully compliant, and creation stubbornly persists on a completely different frequency that he can't even touch. With absolutely nothing left to actively negate, the Baron is cast adrift in his own emptiness. He is quite literally out of words.
This was the ultimate hollow victory. The true horror wasn't the abyss or the Great Zero. No. The text tells us this was, for a man of his precision, the most terrifying thing that had ever happened to him. It's the realization that his own absolute philosophy was a total dead end. He successfully won his argument with the universe, only to find out he was permanently trapped inside it.
So I want to leave you with this final, lingering thought. If your entire existence requires destruction for you to feel free, what actually happens when the universe finally agrees with you? It's a stark, haunting warning about the true nature of nihilism and the inescapable philosophical cages we end up building for ourselves. Thanks for exploring the void with me today.